Good evening. Tonight is Monday, June 22nd, 2015. We're here for the purpose of a special meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I would ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you call roll.
Reconvening. Okay. Deuter.
Here.
Sabatino.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Polumsky.
Here.
York.
Here.
Toledo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Conquest.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. Couple of things this evening that are a little different. First of all, this is a special meeting of the City Council. Due to last Monday's storm events, City Council, a regularly scheduled City Council meeting was canceled. So we had our committee meetings first, and now we're moving on with our council meeting that was canceled last week. Another thing out of the ordinary a little bit is I'm going to give an update on stormwater. Certainly we had a severe rain event last Monday, and I think it's important that I bring not only the council but the residents up to speed on some facts about the storm and also some facts about the city's response and the city's ongoing response as it relates to stormwater. So there's literally mountains to cover, and I'm going to try to just hit on some of the highlights, and then we'll take it from there. So last Monday, June 15th, before I even get started, today we had a bit of an incident. We had some high winds, and power was knocked out to 1,200 people here in Elmhurst. We've been working with ComEd directly west here of City Hall all the way to the quarry, about 1,200 folks. Last update within the last half hour was everybody but about 100 folks are back on. If anybody here is happening to be listening, if you're not on, please do call ComEd. That having been said, Monday, June 15th, 2015, we had another significant storm event. You'll see some of the bullet points listed up here. We had rain gauges all over the city, and between us and DuPage County, it averaged about 4 inches in 24 hours. We had one rain gauge in the south end of town almost at 5 inches. How is that categorized? That's roughly somewhere between a 10 and 25 year event. I use that as only a reference for the scale of the event. I think all of us here in Elmhurst know not to give any meaning to how many years before the next event. I think it's truly become the norm. With the heaviest concentration of over an inch of rain in less than a half an hour. The city did open up their emergency operations center. Was certainly fielding calls before then, and both police and fire had all hands on deck, and I want to thank them for all of their hard work, including pulling 13 people out of submerged vehicles, vehicles that were submerged and folks trapped, and, not necessarily in, but on the vehicles and around the vehicles at the underpass and also North Avenue and 290. So I do want to commend staff. I think as much as we have a lot to discuss tonight, probably the number one thing is bullet point number 5 there, in that even though we did face some challenges, nobody got hurt. Thank God for that. You can read some of this, and other thing I'll announce is all of the documents that I referenced this evening, most of them are already available online. City staff's going to put together a short press release with links in it electronically, so anything that I'm referencing tonight, you'll be able to go on the City Hall's website tomorrow and click on any one of these documents that I referenced, including this PowerPoint presentation. So this is a topographical map that gives you a rough idea. This is Elmhurst clearly, and green is the low point. Low points here and low points here, and there's a ridge that runs right through Elmhurst. Basically, this upper third of Elmhurst down to about Brenhaven, the corner of Brenhaven, drains toward Addison Creek. So drains toward 290 and 294. In fact, there's 2 reservoirs there that take on some of that water. All city operations, all pumping capacity operated, and none failed. We did have a power outage at East End for one of the lift stations, but the backup system did kick in. The remaining, basically 2/3 of Elmhurst, all drained toward the creek. So our storm sewers drain directly into the creek, and much like your sump pump, water runs into the creek until the creek gets to a certain level, and then like the float on your sump pump, when the creek gets to a certain level, those gravity-fed drains actually close, and then pumps kick on, and then water gets pumped over the sides of the creek water gets pumped over the sides of the creek into the creek. Now, there's a limited amount that we can pump by law. We always maximize out what we can pump, but we can't do anything more by law. That's the topographical. This is a little better graph, and both of these will be available online. And there's a chart that you really can't read here, but this is areas that flooded, and these are all reports that we received, whether it was from police or fire or public works, homes that flooded, streets that flooded, whether it was overland flooding, whether it was seepage, whether it was water into the homes. And again, this will be available online. So everything operated as planned, but the many parts of the system were overwhelmed. The underpass took water, and that's one that folks seem to discuss when it does happen. At the time when the underpass was built, back in the late 70s, from a ballpark standpoint, the cost of the underpass, let's just say, was about $20 million. At the time, there was discussion of keeping the underpass clear by putting a pipe and a pump to run anything that gathered at the bottom of the underpass all the way out to the quarry. That would have been about 50% of the project. Council at that time decided not to do that, so in effect, creating an area that would flood. So the underpass actually, by lack of design for pumping out, floods before houses do. So that's something that's pretty standard, and within a day that was pumped out. This is a chart that just indicates how many storms we had of a certain level. And again, some people asked for this chart, so we put it in there. But I think this next chart is a little more telling. So these are the significant storm events of 25 years, events considered 25-year occurrence or higher in Elmhurst. And I think the most significant part of this chart is right here. Okay, so if you look between 1987, if you were here in 1987, we had a significant amount of rain. Sugar Creek, Storm Creek overflowed its banks, flooded a big chunk of Elmhurst, and it was kind of a disaster for everybody. But when folks, ask what's changed, what's the difference, because my home hasn't flooded in 20 years. Well, if you look right here, we've got a 21-year gap before we had any significant rain event. And if you look here, in less than 8 years, we've had 6 significant rain events that we hadn't experienced in the past. I think that's just important to note as it relates to what we're facing. Now, these are considered, the gauge of the events, the type of the events is along the y-axis there. I just consider this now the norm. I don't consider this a 25-year event or a 100-year event. In fact, these events here were actually 100-plus events. These 3 right here, would actually go a little bit higher. But that's just to give you an idea of the stuff that we were facing in the last 8 years that we didn't face in the previous 21 years. Here's a specific data as it relates to that chart. One of the things that also comes up during these events is, did you open the quarry? Was the quarry opened to help with the flooding issue? In 1987, when we had that flood and the quarry overflowed its banks, majority of the south part of Elmhurst, the southwest part of Elmhurst, was considered in a floodplain. And Elmhurst worked very hard with county to not only increase the size of the banks of the creek, but the county actually purchased the quarry from a private owner and put in the system here where you see that thing that says a fixed weir. So this is, if you're standing south of here, so you're standing by Courts Plus or Portillo's or Chick-fil-A and you're looking directly north, that's the view that we see here. This here, which they call a fixed weir, is it's a fancy word for the bank of the side of Salt Creek. This weir, as it is directly next to the quarry, is the lowest point or the lowest bank for Salt Creek in Elmhurst. So why is that significant? Well, when Salt Creek raises to a certain level and overflows its banks, it's going to overflow here first, right next to the quarry. So the fact of the matter is, if you look at this next slide, this is what happens when Salt Creek rises to a certain level. Nothing needs to be turned on. It actually happens automatically. And as of today, the only thing that the quarry is designed to do is to relieve pressure off of Salt Creek to keep that water level in its banks. And since the flood was 1987, I think that this part of the project was operational in maybe 92 or 93. It has worked 100% of the time. Salt Creek has not overflowed its banks. Now, we're going to add to that a little bit. The county late last year approved Elmhurst to actually use some of that capacity, and we are putting a big pipe. We're in the engineering phases. We'll be digging in the ground soon. We're going to put a big pipe over from 2nd and the Tree Streets, Myrtle, Elm over there, and we're going to run a pipe all the way over into the quarry. So then we can no longer say the quarry is only for keeping the creek in its banks. The other thing the quarry will do is it will alleviate flooding in those streets. Big picture long term, the quarry actually has potential additional capacity. So if you look at the west side of the quarry, the west lobe, if you have an opportunity to look down in it, you will see that there's a big grassy hill there. That hill is actually filled with what's called clean landfill. So it's concrete and stuff like that. It's capped with, I think, clay and dirt, and it has grass growing on it. But the city may have an opportunity to excavate some of that and buy additional capacity in the quarry. Long term, if that works out and we get approval from a whole bunch of folks, including DuPage County, Army Corps of Engineers, and a bunch of towns south of us, we may have the opportunity to pump more water into the creek at the south end of town during an event if we can prove to them that we're pulling water out of the creek at the north end. This is an actual picture of what it looks like. This is basically a concrete bank of the creek, and when it raises, it flows over. Now, at the very end here, there's a little gate. If the county wants to increase the capacity of water spilling into the creek, they can actually open a little gate right here. But all that does is bring water in quicker. As I said, since its inception, I think it was operational around 92. This has operated the way it's supposed to, and the creek has not overflowed its banks. So that gives you a rough idea of some of the stuff that happened during the rain event, what police and fire did during the rain event, and happy to talk to folks afterwards with any specific conversations or any specific questions they have. Since 2010, there was an action plan put in place. Again, these are all available online, but we have about 600 pages of Christopher Burke engineering reports and RJN sanitary sewer reports. In here is literally tens of thousands of facts about why Elmhurst floods, where it floods, whether it's a stormwater flood, whether it's a sewage flood, along with suggested things that we can do to fix it. We're doing many of the things that are in here we're doing. Some of it requires cooperation, and we continue to work with those folks to get that cooperation. We have a list on our website of stormwater policies that have been put in place since then. We've got a 7-page list. This is a growing list or a working list of all things that have been done to address both stormwater flooding and sanitary flooding. And these are all things that have happened, both infrastructure and policy. One of the things that I do want to point out that's contained in here is that all flood plans as it relates to the city of Elmhurst, and really all flood plans if you look to new developing towns, all flood plans contain a combination of infrastructure and overland storage. It's the most efficient thing to do. It's actually the most effective thing to do. So the city of Elmhurst problem, as we continue to address it, will always include overland storage and infrastructure upgrades. In 2013, actually July 2013, about a month from now will be the two-year anniversary, I started and sent a letter to Jim Collins and Colette Cabisa, the president of the Park Board and the School Board, recommending that we start a communications committee for the sole purpose of fostering any communication issues between the three groups and ultimately getting to an IGA that would allow us to utilize some of the land. Elmhurst being a mature community of 175 plus years, we don't have the ability of going backwards and redesigning the town. So the open land that we do have is primarily in parks and schools, and many of the solutions or many of the mitigating projects in these documents are on parks and schools land. So it's imperative that we work with those folks. We've been working with both parks and schools for about 2 years. Real quick, and then we'll wrap up and get on with our meeting. As it relates to the Elmhurst Park District, we continue to meet on a regular basis. We met last Thursday on the 18th. There are 2 projects that we are considering. This is York Commons. I think most of you recognize this. This is York Road. This is the Canadian National that runs to the north of it. York Road, Canadian National that runs to the north. Here's Smalley Pool. This was the original proposal that we had. As I said, overland flooding is probably, overland storage is probably the most economical way to handle these types of situations. In this case, what you see here is, this is a common theme in what the city is proposing, is a dual-use field. So this is an example of a softball field that has a gentle slope or a grass dish that allows it to be dual use. So we would actually upgrade the fields itself and the soccer field. During these rain events, so we've had 7 in the last 8 years. So I like to look at it as when operating as designed, you would probably see this softball field would be out of commission for about 2 to 3 days during one of these events. So over the last 8 years, we're talking about maybe a 21-day inconvenience to the folks who want to use these fields versus the folks who we're giving flooding relief to. So this was our original proposal. I want to say that the total acre feet with these 2 combined was about 23 acre feet. We were hoping to store there during these extensive events. An acre foot is, picture a football field, 1 foot deep, square. That's an acre foot of water. So in this case, we were hoping to store about 23 football fields of water in there. Ultimately, the Park District decided not to offer us the east lobe, which was a little disappointment to us, but they did offer us the west lobe. That's going to be about 11 acre feet when it's all said and done. This is I encourage everybody, if you want to understand the thinking behind not utilizing this part of the field, the Park District rejected the idea of using it last fall. At my request, I asked them to take another look at it, and on January 28th of this year, they had an extensive meeting. I think you can listen to it online as to why they rejected the one side and offered the other side. This was the solution that we were offering here. Cost about $3.2 million. This was the solution that the Park Board thought was a good idea, which was allowing us to use the west lobe, but then do extensive infrastructure upgrades to the tune of somewhere between $22 and $27 million. So we thought that was not necessarily the first set of plans we were hoping to do. We were shooting for this lower number. But most importantly is, if you want to understand the thinking behind it, I would say go to the January 28th meeting. The other project that we're working on with the Park Districts, this is Golden Meadows. So this is south of East End Park. There's a soccer field here, and these are the garden plots. So there's a soccer field here, and these are the garden plots, and this is Chicago Northwestern to the south of it. Our original proposal was to put a soccer field here, a dual-use soccer field where you actually lower it. So this is what it looked like. That was the soccer field we were proposing, adding additional off-street parking to alleviate some of the congestion for those folks on Hampshire, and put in a field. Ultimately, the Park District rejected that idea, and they came up with a somewhat creative idea to give us the other lobe itself. The challenge with this is, instead of dual use, where we would just utilize their land, the Park District wants to sell us this land, which is fine, we're willing to pay for it, The problem is that this land was acquired by the Park District through a DNR grant. What does that mean? Department of Natural Resources has some heavy-duty restrictions on what you need to do to sell property. So you have to, if they're going to sell the property to us, they have to go and find equivalent-sized property somewhere in Elmhurst and buy it before they'll agree to this. We're hoping that the DNR will allow us to write a check and allow us to start digging as soon as possible, and the school board can hold that check in escrow until they find a piece of land that they can utilize.
Park District,
I'm sorry, what did I say?
School Board.
Park District, sorry, folks. Oh, say that again? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I should have done that before. When it came to York Commons, the east lobe and the west lobe, the greatest amount of relief would have been provided to the folks on Crescent and the folks on Washington, and a little bit of the folks on Cayuga. As it relates to this project here, this primarily helps the folks down the hill, well, as the pipe goes, is actually up the hill, but it helps the folks at Pine, Avon, over in that area. So, as I said, the school district, we offered this, the Park District rejected that, but offered this instead. The silver lining in this, even though this is a more complicated deal, is that there's almost the equivalent amount of storage. We've had the engineers look at both, and if we're allowed to use this property as soon as possible, we feel we can provide the same amount of relief to those folks on Pine that this would have provided. So that's the current situation with the Park District. The Park District did send a letter to us with what I'll call deal points. The Park District and the school district actually divided at this point. The Park District wanted to talk project specific and then create an IGA. The school board wanted to talk IGA and then add projects to it. Two different ways to skin the cat, I'll say. The Park District, as it relates to both of these projects, has asked for, as it relates to the York Commons, they asked us to put in a basketball court and 2 sand volleyball courts, which I don't believe is a problem. They've asked us to purchase Golden Meadows, and I think if we can just pick a neutral appraiser, I think we'd agree to that and just move forward. But there was one sticking point, and this went through committee, and you can read the report. There will be a link to it online. The Park District asked for an 89-year extension to an existing lease at our parking, or at our Public Works garage. Right now, we share space there. We actually own the garage, and we allow them to share space, and we have an agreement that runs through 2029. But they had an ask of I think it was a 79-year extension on that lease, and I know that the committee members can talk more about it, but we thought that while we understand the need for intergovernmental cooperation, we didn't see necessarily the direct tie between stormwater and a lease over at a garage over here. So our proposal was to move forward with those separately. That's the current status of the Park District. As it relates to the school district, basically we have 2 projects that we've been working on with them. This is Bryan Junior High right here. It's covered up by these. This is Bryan Junior High, this is the parking lot, this is Butterfield. Next to it they have a softball field and they have a gravel pit. So they have a gravel pit and a softball field. This is Bryan, this is Butterfield. We have 2 projects here that we think are of interest. This is actually a softball field used by the York Dukes women's team. Similar to what you've heard in the past, our proposal is to lower this field, and we could put softball field in there, we'll put really anything you want. A gentle slope, a 4-to-1 slope, and it duals as stormwater detention. As I said, if I had to guess in the last 7.5, 8 years, this stuff would have been unusable about 21 days. So we're working with the school district on this. This is actually a gravel lot where the Park District stores, the school district stores some of their trucks and some of their raw materials and stuff like that. Attached to the north end of Bryan Junior High is their motor pool. So the idea here in Elmhurst is we have the Public Works garage. We recently acquired, I think, 1.6 acres to the south end of that Public Works garage. That's going to allow us to expand that Works garage, come up to an agreement that allows the school district to move some of their operations and certainly their storage of their vehicles away from here. That would hopefully free that up, and then depending on what the school district wants, but really the residents in terms of dual-use fields, you could almost start with a whiteboard and create anything you want, and combine that with stormwater. I should point out that all projects that we have mentioned, both with stormwater and with the parks, the intent is for the city to fund 100% of all of those projects. Even the amenities as it relates to basketball courts, volleyball courts, softball fields, et cetera, it would be our intent to pay for those amenities, upgrade them, and then turn them over to the schools and parks. So that's Bryan, and this is probably the biggest in the entire Burke report. Bryan Junior High probably affords us the biggest opportunity for maximum flood mitigation. Depending on how we design this, we could have over 40 acre-feet of flood mitigation, assuming we get permission to do so. According to the Burke report, at any given time during a 100-year event, our problem is about 121 acre-feet. So 40 acre-feet in one location is a pretty big bite out of that problem. The other one that we've been working on, this is a close-up of that. The other one we've been working on, this is Madison. This is Madison School, so the whole picture isn't here, but this is the south end of Madison. I think there's a couple of bitty soccer fields here now, parking lot, and then up here is the actual center for Madison. And this proposal is very similar to the ones you've seen in the past. We'd actually lower it down a little bit, have some detention, but make it a usable field. The school district, I know, has asked for not only for us to create this, but to fund an ADA playground. The status of that is, like I said, the schools wanted to work with an IGA. The thought was if we hammered out the IGA, then the additional projects could be addendums to that. We sent the IGA to the District 205 last August. We got it back toward the end of May. And last week, we sent all of our comments back to the school district. So that's really the current status of our current relationship with the parks and schools. Now, I'd like to add a little bit to that. Our number one issue is stormwater. Our number two issue, really, has become communication and misinformation as it relates to these projects. I'm the one who recommended the formation of this communications committee, and did so with all the right intentions. What I didn't see, and I think that my friends in the parks and schools, and by the way, I want to thank them for their work and their participation on this communications committee, but what I didn't see is some of the downsides. One is miscommunication. So we've been having these meetings. We usually hold them at 7:30 in the morning here at City Hall, and 2 members from the parks or 2 members from the schools will show up along with their staff, usually a superintendent, maybe an engineer, and then the equivalent for the city side. 2 aldermen, myself, an engineer or 2, and the city manager. And while a lot of great questions have been asked and a ton of information has been generated, the problem is that it lended to a lot of miscommunication, and with 2 people per group, it was very difficult to schedule. So all these elected officials, certainly it's not their full-time jobs, and that resulted in sometimes delays of weeks, if not months, to have these individual meetings. And I personally believe that's unacceptable. Ultimately, the residents of Elmhurst suffer. The other thing that was missing here, the intent was to have these meetings and then go out to the public and inform them of what happens. The problem is that by not having these meetings in public, it did not allow the residents of Elmhurst, yourself, to provide input at the time. Basically, what we would do is we would take that information and we go back to our respective groups. So the park folks would go back to their groups, school back to theirs, and city officials back to our groups, and then communicate here. But there wasn't a back and forth. And it ultimately ended up being too slow and unfair to the residents of Elmhurst. Now, I don't believe there's anybody from the parks, the schools, the city, or even the residents who think that this process is working as well as we want. We need to change this process for the residents as soon as possible. Prior to this meeting, I sent an email to President Collins, President Ebner-elect, and President Carolyn Ubriaco, highlighting what I feel are the required changes. As I stated, the two biggest issues are communication and frequency of meeting. So starting now, I'm calling for these Stormwater Committee meetings to be held in public at a time when residents who can attend and want to attend can do so and provide input. Second is to change the frequency. I believe we're close on 2 IGAs, and I'm committed to calling for the meeting schedule to increase until such time that we have 2 IGAs signed and that we have projects underway. I know attendance will be difficult for all members, but here's how I look at it. We've got 7 park board members, we've got 7 school board members, we've got 14 aldermen and an elected mayor. I don't think it's too much to ask these elected officials for once every 2 weeks for 2 of them to show up at a meeting. So I've sent an email to the folks over at the parks and at the schools, and I'm proposing that we have our first meeting on July 9th. That's a Thursday. I checked the schedules. I did not have an opportunity to talk to them directly, but on none of the websites do they have a meeting scheduled for July 9th. I'm also proposing that at least for the first 2 meetings, that these meetings be held here at City Hall. I think it's important that these meetings are recorded, so folks like yourself, if you can attend, will be able to view these online. And then after that, if the parks and schools can accommodate and have the facilities to not only house the amount of people, but also can video record these, then I think it's certainly appropriate to rotate these. That's really it. I think that this is the best thing we can do moving forward. I want to increase the frequency, as I said, to every 2 weeks. I'm hoping that my counterparts in parks and schools can make that happen. We do have an IGA from the IGA returned from the schools. We gave a response last Thursday. This will also be posted online for everyone to read. And I look forward to the meeting on the 9th to public input and to a spirited discussion between school board, park board, and city officials, elected city folks. So that's it for my update on stormwater. Alderman Mulliner?
Could you just make sure the public knows what an IGA is?
IGA is an intergovernmental agreement. It's something very common. So, for example, I referenced one. We have an IGA with the parks where they utilize 4,500 square feet of office space, I think 45 square feet of internal parking, and then maybe 5 external parking spots at our Public Works garage. In turn, they pay for the average of 1 mechanic. There's a good example of an intergovernmental agreement. Yes, Alderman Mulliner?
Follow up. I thank you for and applaud you for moving these meetings forward, because I believe that's really one of the most important things, is getting these meetings more frequent and in the public as much as possible, so that the public knows what's going on. My ward, as everybody knows, takes a great deal of hits from this flooding. Alderman Wagner and I deal with it every time it floods. And I appreciate the fact that we are moving forward. I just want to make people aware that in addition to what the mayor has said, there's been a number of other projects that have already moved forward, as he referenced at the beginning. Please make yourself aware of what those projects are, because some of them, that we just don't have enough time to discuss every one of them tonight. And there's been a lot of policy changes, thanks to Alderman Kennedy and the Public Works Group. They've done a great job on getting some of those things moving forward. And as we continue to move forward, it's important for us to get everybody on the same page and make sure that we get support from every organization. As everybody knows, the mayor said it very clearly, when you look around the community, as I drive around the community and I talk to people, when they look at open land, they don't say that that land belongs to the school district or the park district or the city. It belongs to the public. And it's really important for us to get that message to all of the different organizations so that we can begin working together to get these problems solved. We're all getting tired of these floods, and I'm well aware of the fact that lots of people in our area took a lot of water, as well as other areas throughout the city. So we want to do it as quickly as we can, and I appreciate all the effort that the mayor and the city council, as well as the park board and school board, have put forward, and the patience that the community has had. And I understand that it's running thin, but we're going to get these things solved. Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on? Seeing none,
Alderman Kennedy.
I'm sorry, Alderman
Thank you,
Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor. I just want to add to it, there was a comment made about the lease extension, and we as a Public Works Committee did sign that report unanimously. It came to the council here. 14 of us approved that, that we would not do the lease extension. I want to just clarify why that is. First of all, as you stated, there was no direct tie to stormwater. The second thing is looking at the life of that agreement out to 2108 equates to about a $4.5 million subsidy that's incongruent to what we're trying to achieve here. In the end, we want to get these projects done. We want to get these agreements in place. We are all committed to getting these IGAs put in place. This is one thing we just have to negotiate through and make this happen. I fully agree with the change to the communication meetings. Myself and Alderman Plumsky were at 99% of those, and although there was some good progress made, there certainly is not enough progress to the point where we have shovels in the ground and projects completed. So I think this is the best next step we can do and push these across as well as get others moving going forward. Thanks.
Okay, Alderman Palomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. As a member of the Communications Committee, I appreciate the decision to make a change and have these discussions in public because I'm confident in our proposals. I do believe that the process will be accelerated and that ultimately we will come to an agreement to store the greatest amount of water possible while still preserving our amenities.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess if you can clarify a little bit more in regards to the changes that you are making or presenting to the other two government bodies for the Communications Committee. I am assuming, and please correct me if my assumption's wrong, that the same individuals, in this case on our side of the coin, Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Plumsky, will remain our contacts for the Communications Committee. I'm also assuming, and please, this is the point that I want clarification on how and where these meetings will be communicated. I know you announced the next one in this forum, but will it, going forward, will there be meeting minutes? Will it be online somewhere where all the residents can take a look at knowing what the agenda is, the discussion that occurred, and when and where they're taking place?
Yes, all of that will be online. We will post the meetings online. The thing I will add is, so yes, to all the stuff that you asked, are they going to be online? Are the agendas going to be online? Are minutes going to be taken? Yes. The one, I would say, wrinkle in this is that while Alderman Kennedy and Alderman Palomsky will continue to be the members as far as the city relates, as far as the city's folks for the Communication Committee. The Parks recently changed their folks. Bob Howard didn't run for re-election, so Kevin Graff and Vince Spaeth are their representatives. And then I believe I referenced Ms. Ebner as president-elect. I'm not sure how that, the best way to state it, but Mr. Collins is stepping down in October and Ms. Ebner is taking over. And Ms. Ebner was part of the Communications Committee, so I think she's stepping down and Mr. Bloom is taking over. What I would add to that, though, is because of the frequency, and I think that's probably the most important thing here, is that by trying to schedule these meetings every 2 weeks, it would be, while it would be extraordinary, I think it would be great if Mr. Kennedy and Alderman Palomsky are available every 2 weeks on a certain day. I'm going to assume that not only folks from our representation, but theirs are going to have conflicts. So in effect, what I ask the other folks to do is kind of identify your proxies. But for the citizens of Elmhurst, let's commit that we'll get two elected officials from each group to that meeting every 2 weeks.
And the reason why I ask, obviously, that question is because I would hate to hear that various representatives are going to be in place of this meeting, and therefore there's a catch-up time. And I'm not saying there is from our side or any of the other two government body side either. I'm not making that assumption or that accusation, but I wanted to make sure that we're thinking this through to make sure that everybody's prepped and we don't have a delay for any reason.
I can tell you this, I think we're at a point, one of the frustrating things from our point of view, I know, has been that we have all this information. Bringing other folks up to speed, but I can tell you at this point, we're at a point where the decisions that need to be made are just very logical, and I believe that any elected member will be able to represent their board adequately at these meetings. Great.
Good to hear. I mean, I've been asking for this to be public. I'm glad that we're moving in that direction. And I encourage all the residents who are interested in any of these projects to come and listen.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Written receipt of communication. Is there anyone at this time who has any written communication they wish to submit to come on up and please present to Clerk Spencer? Now, are you going to be reading that as well?
No, these
No.
are photos.
Oh, okay, all right, so you have a copy. I got you, okay. All right, anyone else have any written communication that they wish to submit at this time? Mr. Crumry, if you have any written communication, please provide it to Ms. Spencer. Anyone else who has any written communication and wishes to submit, please identify yourself. Seeing none, we'll move on to the public forum portion of our meeting. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the members of the council and the dais on any item they so wish. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for folks that may want to speak after you and out of respect for the work that we have to do here this evening. If you go over 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up. At this time, Clerk Spencer, do we have anybody signed up for public forum?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it looks like we have 11 people that have signed up, and I'll start with Carlton Rink.
Okay, when you're identified, Mr. Rink, just hold on one second. When the clerk has identified your name, Mr. Rink's already caught on pretty quickly. Please make yourself over to that microphone. State your name for the record, for audio, and if you care to state your address, that's optional, but appreciated. Mr. Rink, I think.
Okay, my name is Carlton Rink, 114 North Pine Pond. I appreciate the mayor's message tonight. I think I'm in full support of what he's proposing, and that is to pick up the pace on these programs. So if that's what I'm hearing, I'm all for it, and thank you for doing that. And please push that forward to get these programs, all forms, fastest, whatever we can do, because please, 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 this last flood, which didn't look like a big bar on that graph you showed, but I don't know how this all plays out. But in my neighborhood, my house, this was the second highest it got on the outside of my house. Even though the bar on that graph looked like it was one of the shorter bars, the flood was the second highest we've had in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Linda Strom, 1056 Riverside Drive.
My name is Linda Strom, 1056 Riverside Drive, Elmhurst. I would like to address the issue of the green space that was promised to us if the city moved the garages down our street. The residents of Riverside Drive and Butterfield Highlands were promised green space of the Davis Old Teen properties. We are now finding out that the city is going back on its word to keep it as green space. The Davis property floods during any given heavy rainstorm right out into the street. The water on the Davis property this time last week on the green space did not recede for 3 days. In fact, your Public Works hearing sign was underwater as well. We absolutely cannot have salt piles, etc., on those properties which were promised us as green space. My parents at 1009 Riverside Drive flooded their basement flooded during the last storm. As a matter of fact, so did ours. Whatever happened to the quarry that was supposed to be saving us from all that flood water? We went uptown that day, and literally everywhere that we went to get back home was every street or every route was flooded, and even the underpass. So you plan on putting salt piles on land with water. This will be leaching into the soil. If you do put concrete down on the slabs, where will the water go then? I'll tell you, right in our basements. What we would like what we were promised, green space, not salt piles. Already we have a very hard time getting in and out of our little neighborhood. Riverside Drive, 83, and Frontage Road is a joke. Drivers ignore the stop sign, nobody waits their turn, basic rules of the road are ignored. by the commercial and industrial traffic, which includes the yellow city garage vehicles. It takes 5 to 7 minutes just to get out onto Route 83. This is extremely frustrating. We are asking that you do what you promised when the city garage was rammed down our throats. Do not change the green space that was promised into salt piles, etc. Do not add to the water problem that is on our street. Thank you.
Michael Cremery, 570 West Crockett.
Michael Crumry, 570 West Crockett. During the last City Council meeting on June 1st, an Elmhurst resident explained how he received a $25 parking ticket on his car parked on the street at 3:13 a.m. The car owner was a mere 13 minutes past the deadline and had to pay a $25 fine. Yet over the last 16 months, not a single penny in fines has been charged or paid by any of the repeated documented violations of the entire Chapter 22 Article 11 signs. So my question to the mayor and city manager and assistant city manager for today's meeting is simply, have you provided a refund of $25 to the Elmhurst resident from the last meeting? His name and address is listed in the city council meeting minutes, so it'll be easy for you to mail him the refund. Back in February, several businesses were noted to be in violation of the sign ordinances, and some of them were indeed contacted by code enforcement officers. One business, they got caught in February 2015, so they removed the illegal banner. Then they found out that they could complete an application to display a temporary banner sign for 30 days without charge. They applied and were granted the approval for the month of May 2015. Now quickly back to the $25 parking ticket that was issued at 3:13 a.m. What if the car owner had parked on the street from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. in violation of the Elmhurst Municipal Code for 2 consecutive days? Would a $25 fine be justified? What if the car had been parked in the street 10 days in a row? Surely most reasonable people would expect that the car owner would have received at least one $25 ticket over the course of those 10 days. So what would be the non-biased and appropriate course of action for a business that is 22 days, June 22nd is today, past the deadline for display of a temporary banner sign? 22 days past the time limit, not 13 minutes, but 22 days. That's 31,680 minutes, if someone cares to do the math. And oh yeah, this same business has tables and chairs on the public right-of-way, the sidewalk, yet a City of Elmhurst sidewalk cafe permit application is not on file for this business. Mayor Morley, City Manager Grabowski, please ensure that the fines to be collected per the documentation provided to you again tonight are used to provide the $25 refund. Elmhurst residents do not deserve to be so blatantly discriminated against.
Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Claude Pogart, 566 West Gladys. Glad to see you're all here. I spent a lot of years here, and 1 or 2 you show up. When you get flooded out, you come down and you plead your heart. We can't lay the fault for flooding at the foot of this council. My wife was born and raised in this town, and she's a little older than I am. This town flooded back then. Every council, every mayor failed to consider the issue of flooding. Unfortunately for these gentlemen, they're stuck with it. But every time you come down here as a group, there's a nice picture show. This is what we're planning. This is what we're hoping. We've sent letters. We've got drawings. but people don't want to talk to us. We can't get with them. See, their houses don't flood. See, they're just elected officials. And they have their own little world to defend. But you'll walk away and you won't come back.
Mr. Pagash, you have an opportunity to address the council, not the audience. So I'm
Well, in
asking-
fact, Mayor, what it is this. The council has addressed the audience time and time again over the years. You may not have been mayor. Some of these gentlemen and ladies might have not sat there, but these people out in this audience have heard the same rhetoric. We got this plan, we've had this conversation, we're planning to do this, and ultimately, after this meeting and everything else, they'll disappear, and it'll all go back to we're having meetings, letters, plans, engineering reports, and everything else, and in a couple months, they'll flood out again, and they'll stay away again, and the council will just revert back to what it was doing. We'll have meetings. We'll have a nice picture show. But their house floods. And as I said before, you will send them to the county a property tax, which you will require them to pay. You will also require them to put their house back in a livable condition. That is the reality. And like I said, I don't lay it all at your feet. There were mayors before you, councils before you. But 5 or 6 years of meetings, engineering reports, picture shows, engineers coming down to explain to them. If they get explained to it one more time, they can draw the thing to themselves. What they're looking for is some action. And there's one other thing. I wasn't even going to bring up this subject today, but they're here. They voted you in, you listened to them, and then you say you're going to have another meeting. But there's also on this agenda tonight where you're going to vote in some general obligation bonds.
Mr. Pagash, you're over your 3 minutes. I'd ask you
I
to wrap it
understand.
up.
Just one question, Mayor. It can come out of the head of the financial department. Just what is the total value of the general obligation bonds that this city now has on record?
Carrie Patoti, 242 East Crescent.
Steve, I appreciate what you said. 242 East Crescent, Carrie Pedoti. I appreciate what you said. I hope you're serious because it is brutal just watching the water come up at your house. My house is surrounded by water. I have a 2,200 square foot house. I have 3 sump pumps, a drain tile system, and overhead sewers. There's nothing left we can do. We've lost 2 cars. So if it rains, I move my cars a block away. If I go on vacation, we have to leave car keys with people so they can move our cars. Part of the reason there's so much misinformation is because we get no response. I emailed my alderman, I got no response. It's past the point. A house I raised my kids in and I loved is the biggest burden and just a place to sleep right now. I like winter better than summer because I don't have to worry about the flooding every time I go away. So I hope you're serious because it really is painful just to watch your house just be inundated with water, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamara Brenner.
Tamara Brenner, a few comments. First of all, to me, this is the public and not an audience. We're here to participate in government, not only to watch a performance by the council. I'm glad to see a spirit of keeping the public more informed from the mayor today. That's fabulous to hear. Maybe he's also interested in the email I sent to him this morning. I hope you got it. It was a screenshot of the agenda for the Public Affairs and Safety Committee tonight, which demonstrates that despite the technology that we have available in board docs for the dissemination of public documents, There's not a single document posted as part of that agenda for any of the 4 items on there, and that is routinely the case for that committee in particular, but also for other of the committees, which I listed on the email. We have an ability to share all public documents with the public, whoever wants to make themselves interested in to see those things. They should be posted. The technology is not the problem. It's the political decision-making that's the problem now. Everything public should be posted, including these new meetings. I hope they get on there. It's been a long time since we've had board docs, and there haven't been a lot of changes. For instance, the zoning commission, that stuff's still on the old website, not on the board docs website. It's hard to go to both places to find out everything that's going on. On last week's committee meeting, in particular, I did not get until after the meeting the spreadsheet that showed the budget for the Addison parking garage. One of the interesting things from that meeting was the party line that I heard, which is, we're on budget for the parking garage. We are only a few, maybe it's $17,000, I think was the number, off the budget for the $14 million project. Well, remember, the $14 million was only for the concrete and everything building the garage. There's $4.5 million plus for land acquisition, and then all the professional fees and other time and monies that were spent in getting that garage project to happen. Plus, there's some interesting things about the bidding process, including the unqualified bid that was accepted for the glasswork last time around. On a couple of other items on tonight's agenda, disposition and acquisition of real property was discussed in executive session again tonight. I hope that has to do something with flooding and not anything to do with, say, the Plass building or anything like that. I guess we'll find out someday. The trolley service is not a matter of if, but when. That's the 2 reports tonight. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know, really. I'm not necessarily opposed to a trolley service at some point, although it seems like funny timing. And also the paperwork that's available to me, maybe there's other stuff, maybe that's all there is, but it shows $10,000 available for marketing the trolley service, but not how much the trolley service is going to cost. It's going to be free for people to ride, but the city's going to be paying something to run the thing, right? How much? And last, I see that we're going to be authorizing the Wilder Crossing redevelopment agreement. So I want to congratulate them on the receipt of their welfare package and profit padding plan. Good job, City of Elmhurst, giving away taxpayer money again.
Kathleen Sullivan.
Kathleen Sullivan. First, I'm passing along Tracy Fleischer's regrets for not being here tonight. She's purchasing her 4th floor in 5 years for her 1st floor. You can only imagine the other damage that they've incurred. So Kathleen Sullivan, my own comments. The difference between reasons and excuses is results. And I'm glad to hear the mayor's comments tonight. This was my planned lead in to begin with. I too call on every elected official of the city of Elmhurst, every employee of the city of Elmhurst, every elected official in this town, whether you're in the park board, the school board, and the county board, state office, etc. Do everything in your, and if you were ever elected before, if you donate to any of those people to go on a campaign, do everything in your power to sway these people to get this done. We have been sitting here long time trying to get these things done. I have been coming here for over 6 years for my neighborhood. It is 5 years ago this month, probably this week, that the Moros flooded a month before the July 2010 flood. So the bar up there that showed one flood, that was 200-year storms that we used to use the terms back then. Thank you for not using them now. So it's time to get this done. I call on every single one of you, and I call on all of you as residents to keep coming. Come all the time. Hear what they all have to say. Yes, there is a lot of misinformation out there. You know, I was reading during the storm. I did my best to put out some factual. I do my best only to put out factual information, and I really try not to give my opinion publicly, except for here and other meetings, but not in the social media. But there's a lot of people who have their opinions, and they're certainly entitled to those opinions, I have to say. So you need to keep educating everybody you can. You need to respond, by the way, when your constituents contact you within, I'd say, 30 hours is sufficient time, sir. So anyway, so those are a few of my thoughts. I probably have more things I thought of saying in the last several days as I've cleaned and been contacted by so many people. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Paula Wolf.
Hi, Paula Wolf, Larch, right across from the tot lot. I'm here to talk about flooding as usual. It was no different, well, it was different this time. It did seem to come into my house a little bit differently. I got home about 5 o'clock. I couldn't even get down my street. It was already so full. My daughter said, come to my house. She lives on the south side. But she said, don't take west, because west usually floods around Courts Plus. She said, try some other streets to try and get to St. Charles. Well, I don't know how many times I turned down a street and I had to back out because they were flooded. This is the first time I've come out of my own neighborhood and seen how much flooding there is everywhere else. I finally got to my daughter's house like 40 minutes later by using West. Oddly enough, it was all right. But I didn't get home till 9 o'clock, and neither did my neighbor. They have 2 small children. His wife was alone in the house with them. This is not acceptable. Luckily, we didn't lose a lot in our basement this time because I never put it back together after last year. I'm just one of many. And how are you finding money for this lovely parking garage, all the planters and pretty pink bikes, and now a trolley? Where are you getting the money for that? Come and fix our basements. And I know there's maybe share costing on some things, but why should we have to pay for anything to fix our house over and above what we've already spent when it's not our fault? It's the city. You're not taking care of us. We pay our taxes. We'd be in a lot of trouble if we said, no, we're not going to pay them because we have to fix our basement. But truly, I want to pay the taxes for our police department, our fire department, for our schools. But our parks, yeah, my grandchildren love to play in them, but you know what? I'd rather have a safe house for them to come to. We wouldn't send them to a moldy school. We wouldn't want them out in a storm and not be able to get back to their own homes. So what is somebody going to do about it? And you have these meetings and, yeah, we can talk, somebody can record it. But I think what we need is a question and answer session where you have to talk to us. And it should be on a Saturday in a large environment. So all the people who work during the day or the evening can come. And maybe we can really figure out what's going on. And I'd love to find out, you know, I hear a lot that's going on for the south side, which is great. In Pine, they definitely need it. We had a place on Willow, it needed it. But I don't hear too terribly much about Addison, Maple, and Larch in the 400 block, and that lovely tot lot that overflows every time. You know, this is lip service or something you give out? We really need help. And these are the biggest investments people make in their life, probably, is their home. And with this bio program, what's $1 million gonna buy in Elmhurst? 2 houses, 3 houses? It's nothing when you figure how many are affected by these storms. Maybe you should use that $1 million to flood-proof the homes at your own expense. It might help. So, I don't know. We've tried our best. Somebody from the city has come out, but again, it's going to be a cost share if it works. And that's not a given. It might not. And the same thing for everybody else here. How much have we all either replaced or done to keep the water out of our homes? It's been a year since I've used my basement, my family room. I have to walk through to do the laundry. That's fun. But I'm not alone. Everybody's in the same boat. Maybe you are up there too, but I don't understand why you're not working harder. We don't need the pretty things, we need the safe things. Thank you.
Next, I have Adam. He didn't give his last name.
Good evening, Adam Tomczynski. We live by Euclid and Cayuga. And this past Monday, we got more water than in 2013 flood. Came in quicker. I was actually out of state. We were on vacation at the time. And just only because Facebook and our wonderful neighbors is how we found out what was happening. And I decided to get back here and stay at my house because I was worried that we were going to lose power and we would get more flooding. Just please do what you can as quickly as you can to fix this issue. Thank you.
Maria Krishnicka. Did I mutilate her name?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Morley, for making that announcement of what's going to be happening with the Park District and the school board. You've heard lots of terrible stories about what has happened, and my garage flooded again. We almost lost our car, but words are important, but actions are important. And thankfully, you guys didn't use the word unprecedented, because when something happens so many times and in such a short period of time, it's not unprecedented. And you said it's the new normal, but you guys need to treat this like a crisis. It's beyond not the top priority. It is a crisis. And I appreciate that there are other things happening in this town, and we have to have economic development, and the parking garage is going up, and I think, yes, downtown parking is a problem, but it has become a symbol for the fact that no matter what you do in this town at this point, you can put a nice parking garage up, you can have Formula Fitness Club, you can have Whole Foods come in. Isn't it great? Everything is devalued by the fact that residents are afraid every time it rains that their home is going to be underwater, that they are not going to be able to pick up their kids from daycare, that something catastrophic is going to happen to their home or to people that they care about. So it's a crisis. Treat it like a crisis and take action as quickly as you can. Nothing else matters if you do not take care of this problem.
Marsha O'Connor.
She here?
Oh, okay, all right. That's it then, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's it for everyone who had an opportunity to sign in. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet but still wishes to address the council? If so, please raise your hand. Anyone else? Just want to make sure I get everybody. Okay, 2, 3, okay. We'll start left to right. The man with the navy shirt on, we'll go with you first.
My name is Jim Mitchell. I live at 143 Richard in Elmhurst.
Sorry, I missed that.
Jim Mitchell. I'm at 143 Richard in Elmhurst. I live right next to Golden Meadows Park, and I think one of the issues is that using the Golden Meadows Park is going to give relief, but not for Richard. And we've probably had, the last event, we've probably had at least 5 or 6 feet of water at the end, and everybody's sandbagging. So I'd like to hope that that would be consideration to Richard in the future as well, because it's been bad as well. I'd like the summary that you provided, Mayor, of what was some of the future projects that you guys are taking to get relief for stormwater. But I'm wondering if you guys could, in the Burke report, provide a much thorough summary of the projects that are being taken down and the percentage of relief that the residents are going to get. So kind of a bigger picture of here's the magnitude, because there's so many flooding issues in Elmhurst, and that we're incrementally fixing the problem, but what's the overall goal? So if there's sort of a Gantt chart that you can put together with sort of deliverables to really get it, when is the remainder of us going to get some relief with additional projects and future funding? I think the other issues I'm seeing is a lot of houses that are going up where the hospital was. And all those houses are going to have overhead sewer systems. Well, what's going to happen is the pressure in other people's basements that don't have overhead sewer systems. So if they got 6 inches of septic water in their basement, with the increased pressure, because that water has to go somewhere, and with the increased pressure, you're going to find that residents in the area with issues of septic are going to have you're going to find that they're going to have bigger issues in the area that don't have overhead sewer systems. And even the ones that have check valves and overhead sewer systems, they're getting septic back up as well. So the engineering, I think you guys got to take a look at that engineering and come up with, because I think you're going to find out future issues. And also, I know you addressed a lot of the stormwater issues, but the majority of the people in my block also are having, septic backup, and there's really no relief for that. And even some of the people, newer homeowners that just purchased on our block had no indication from the previous owners that sold them that there was any issue of flooding. And they're just they got a new baby on the way, and every single rain event they've gotten septic, and they live right next door to us. And I've gotten septic too, but I think I've just learned to deal with it and figure it out and have to live with it. So if we could just probably provide better summaries of the 600-page Burke report, kind of technical finding and overall sort of a Gantt chart that looks at the projects that are coming up with these parks and with these open land areas, and then what's the overall percentage that it's giving relief for residents as a whole of residents, and how the future funding is going to address the remainder of these issues that we continue to have. And I also would impress upon you on, I know you mentioned that by law you cannot relieve any of the, because you can't have more water go into Salt Creek. But have you guys sought any relief from the Army Corps of Engineers in terms of your permit, in terms of, downstream, and working on community deals with residents that are the communities and government, other cities that may have larger capacity, that we can use some of their capacity with getting into Salt Creek, and asking the Army Corps of Engineers for input on how to do that. And I also applaud your actions for buying, the western portion of the quarry. That would, I think, provide a tremendous amount of relief, and but it's all going to cost money, and it's all going to be engineering on how to get, relief into using that system. But that additional system, I think, would really give much more major relief to the majority of residents in looking at that. Okay, thank you.
I think there's a lady in the back on this side, and I'll get you in the front as well. After you can go after her.
Hi, my name is Shannon Watts. I live on Euclid, very close to where Cayuga is, and my backyard is up against all of the flooding that happens in the Washington area. One of the things that I noticed when we were talking through some of the things with York Commons was that it was said that, well, I guess it was highlighted that this city council wanted the programs that would be in both using overland storage. And I think it's important to highlight that those, if we did that alone per the engineering reports, would only help 14 homes for East Lobe only, or 38 homes for West Lobe only. And what the park board, my understanding of what the park board was wanting was the city to really consider the larger engineering project. And for everyone here to know that that larger engineering project, while more expensive, would help 222 homes, which is a big difference between 14 and 38 homes. And it would also include sewer expansion, pump expansion, and compensatory storage. And instead of helping the homes on Crescent and some on Washington, it would have more of an impact for Crescent, Washington, also Swain and Villette areas, and Sailor and Jackson areas. So I guess I urge the city to be looking at programs that will help more people and fix the problem the right way instead of doing little fixes here and there, but we still end up flooding. Basically, building and development will not stop, and we really want to be living in a thriving community. So, doing developments and that should all be a good thing, but the problem is it shouldn't be at the expense of the current residents. And in order to support that, the city needs to make infrastructure improvements. And while it will be costly, it's the right thing to do for the long run. And then it will also help support future growth. And I guess my hope is that the city really moves forward. Hearing in the last meeting, right before this, that things are starting to move towards that for the infrastructure improvements, but really to keep on focusing on that. And I also get concerned when I start hearing more about cost-sharing programs and smaller projects. And while they would be good and help people, my concern is that at the expense of larger projects that will have big, real impact to the residents for things that, the relief that we so desperately need. We shouldn't be flood-proofing our homes. We should hopefully be in a situation where our homes won't flood. And then that should be the end goal, not fixing when the water comes up or knowing that the water is going to come up. Let's fix it so it's not a problem anymore. Thank you.
Lady here in front.
Hi, I'm Ellen Hogan Cruz, and I live on Sailor. And many things have been discussed tonight. We've been discussing this for more than 5 years, but I'm a nurse. Okay, and a lot of people here are very concerned about the water in their house. It's inconvenient, it's expensive, it's annoying, it's scary. But I look at it as a health issue for us, and your health is the only thing that's really important. Our town was fined by the EPA, a big fine, $25,000 for not being on top of taking care of the sanitation issues here. And when people get septic backup, we're talking about E. coli. We're talking about hepatitis B, really scary diseases that are going into people's homes. When you have elderly people who have homes that get repeatedly flooded, they don't have the physical ability or perhaps the financial ability to fix their basements. They stay wet, they get moldy, these people are getting sick, their asthma is really bad. This is also a really important aspect of this problem. So I just wanted the aldermen to remember that this isn't just an inconvenient, expensive pain. This is a health crisis. So if you can push things along as fast as possible to get some of these projects in a place to actually protect the health of the people who live here. Thank you.
I know there's a gentleman over here. I think he's the last one. Anyone else? Okay.
How you doing? Pete Gerosa. I live on South Spring Road. I appreciate the time, Mayor. Couple points. I like living in Elmhurst. I moved my family to here from the western suburbs. It's a great area. We need a bigger house. I can't sell my house due to the flooding. It's the constant issue, even with people coming out and looking at our house. They look at it and they say, well, Elmhurst is a city that floods. I would like to try to help you, rectify a situation, whether it's sit on a board or what. I understand that there's a lot of bureaucracy that we have to go through. I work for a very large organization. For me to have a change in my facility takes months, maybe even a year. I understand that. I just want to see it go forward. First thing I did on Monday night when I got home, I got my my babysitter, out of the house so she could get home safely, and I grabbed my kids 2 life jackets just to have them nearby. As soon as my wife got home, I parked in Eldridge Park. And that's the next question. Is there any plans for Eldridge Park? I know it embanks Salt Creek, but it's a very large area. There's a lot of runoff that we get from the park. So that's the first thing. I do appreciate the time. I would like to see a reimbursement of yellow caution tape because I'm the guy that shuts off the Spring Road to prevent people from passing through, to prevent more damage. So once again, I appreciate everyone's time here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that wraps it up for public forum this evening. Appreciate everyone's comments this evening. On to agenda item 6. Any announcements from the dais? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. At this time, is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have removed for further comment or to vote no? Anything removed from the consent agenda? Alderman Braham.
7.7.
1 second. It's getting late. 7.7. Anything else? People wish to, Aldermen wish to have removed from the consent agenda. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 7.7. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Levin. Clerk Spencer.
York.
Aye.
Levin. Aye. Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter. Aye. Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski. Aye. Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Consent agenda passes minus item 7.7. On to item 7.7. Clerk Spencer, I would ask that you please read the ordinance.
An ordinance vacating a portion of Hahn Street and public alley south of Hahn Street rights-of-way.
Okay, to put this before the council, I will ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion to approve the ordinance. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Honquist. Alderman Braham, you pulled this. Why don't you fill us in?
Yes, sir. This is in regards to the right-of-way, as Clerk Spencer have already stated. The Hahn Street right-of-way being 20,000 plus square feet and the 20-foot public alley space being a little bit over 2,800 square feet. I didn't agree with the report when we initially discussed this, and therefore I pulled the ordinance because I don't agree with the ordinance. Essentially, for this development, from just a purely dollars and cents perspective, the developer, being Morningside Hahn LLC in this case, is presenting the city with $1.675 million for the conveyance not of only of these right-of-ways, but 120,750 square feet. And to me, dollars and cents, that equating to $13.87 a square foot is just not a good deal for the city of Elmhurst residents, taxpayers, et cetera, especially when we're talking about approving a little bit down the ways, a GO bond for various issues like the Edison Garage and the flooding projects as well. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Deuter. Aye. Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Palumski.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ludo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries. Ordinance is approved. On to committee reports. Agenda item 8, majority report. Clerk Spencer, I would ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council approve a pilot trolley program through a service provider as outlined above and authorize the city attorney to prepare the necessary documents. Signed by Chris Healy, Chairman, Norman Leader, unsigned by Danny Polumsky, Vice Chairman.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the recommendation as read and report. Motion by Alderman Healy, second by Alderman Leader. Alderman Healy, your report.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to start out by acknowledging that I think I speak for the whole committee when I say that the timing of this report is not ideal. You know, obviously, with what happened last Monday when we were scheduled to talk about this, we had a significant event, and we are all focused on flooding, and we will all remain focused on flooding. I know the Public Works Committee is working very hard. As a former member of that committee, I know how hard they work. But I acknowledge that the timing of this report is not great. On the other hand, you know, we're a big city, $120 million a year budget, and we have all kinds of projects going on besides just flooding. On the consent agenda, we did have a couple of storm water or sanitary water projects that we move forward. This just happened to be a project that had some differences of opinion, so we're talking about an open session. But I do want to acknowledge that that timing is not great, but with the trolley and what we're hoping to do and the marketing we're hoping to get done in support of the trolley so that it's a successful program, we need to get this program moving. We need to either give it an up or down, we need to vote it in or not, so that the folks that are going to work on the project can get moving. That being said, this is a continuation of the trolley discussion from last July. Our committee took it over, and we focused on two main issues, and those two main issues were the two issues from last July that put that caused us to delay the trolley project from last year. And those two main issues were marketing, and then the goals and follow-up from this test program. If we're going to do a test program, we should have some idea of how we're going to measure it, and would we want to do it again or make it somewhat permanent, meaning put it into the budget in the coming years. We didn't look at the trolley program in terms of viability or whether the council wanted to do it. Last July, the council seemed to indicate that the trolley program was worthwhile. However, there were some concerns about marketing and, like I said, marketing and measurement, so we focused on that. That being said, on the follow-up, the measuring success, we had quite a discussion over 2 or 3 meetings about how we were going to go about that. I think we all agreed in terms of what we want to do after the program ends, which is to gather information from the trolley company. They've already agreed if we go with the program and extend the contract that they will track ridership. The driver will record people getting on, approximate time of the day when they get on, et cetera. So we'll have some objective information. And staff and the committee have also agreed that we will engage with various stakeholder groups after the fact to get more subjective information. Restaurant owners, bar owners, et cetera. Did they find people coming in off the trolley? Were people talking about it? Did they, the business owners, find it to be a worthwhile program? Once we gather all that information, sometime in September, October, we will bring the issue back to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee meeting for a review and a subsequent report to the committee, to the council, and decide at that point if we want to extend the trial program. So we all felt comfortable that the follow-up, we could cover that. The more contentious issue, and obviously with the minority report, the issue that has some people concerned is the marketing, and are we trying to move this project along too fast, and are we able to do the appropriate level of marketing needed to ensure that this program gets a fair trial basis for this first year. So we as a committee talked to staff. Staff came up with some recommendations. One of those recommendations is to have a point person for us on the marketing side. That person will be Maureen McGuire. Maureen is sitting in the audience out there in the white jacket. Maureen is not a city employee. She is a contractor that does work for the city on various marketing pieces, most notably the front porch. Maureen is going to be the point person for our marketing effort. Maureen is the person that put together the marketing program that we all got a copy of, and is waiting for our go-ahead to really start engaging in that marketing program so we can get the word out. If it is the council's indulgence, if there are questions that you may have that I can't answer or that the committee can answer, we did ask Maureen to be here so that you have those, you have that ability to ask those questions, but that's up to you. But I felt it was important to put a name and a face behind the position, knowing that it would not just be some existing staff member's job to ad hoc this. We're going to have a point person. Maureen will work with the business owners. She will work with the signage companies. She will work with the printing companies. There was a comment made in public forum about the budget. It is a $35,000 a year a $35,000 expense for the approximate 8 weeks that we're going to run the program. Approximately $25,000 of that is for the actual trolley itself, and approximately $10,000 of that is for the marketing effort, Maureen's fees as well as printing fees, et cetera. Included in that marketing effort, obviously all the social media components that the city has access to, Facebook, Instagram, our website, et cetera, e-blasts, emails, as well as some, I'll call them direct marketing pieces where Maureen, and we talked a little bit about this at committee tonight, where Maureen will go out, if the report passes tonight, and start engaging with the restaurant owners and the shop owners on a discount program that the trolley driver will hand out. And we can use that as a possible tool to measure the success of the program. But these are all efforts that Maureen will head up. She will work with the business associations, the Spring Road Association, York and Villette, City Center, and the Chamber of Commerce. They will get the word out. Some staff members, including Brian Berghager, has already started mentioning the program to, I'll call them sister agencies, though they're really not related, but things, places like the Lozadro Museum, the Art Institute, et cetera. So I am very confident that we have time to do marketing, that we have enough tools at our tools and resources available to make this program successful this year. I acknowledge that with more time, we could probably do some things differently, but I also believe that those things would be, as I've been saying, nice to haves, not have to haves. I don't believe that there's anything that can't be done at this point that would put this program in peril of not succeeding. If this program doesn't succeed, it will not be because of a lack of marketing. It will be because the residents of Elmhurst didn't view it to be the amenity that we're hoping it is, and I firmly believe that. So with that said, I will ask for your support of the report, and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Wagner.
Yeah, I'm in support of the majority report. I want to thank the committee for continuing the discussion. The marketing is an important aspect to the overall success of the program, but it's a pilot program. I think we have to do something in order to figure out if it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. I'm pretty sure that with in the social media channels that we all live in today, this is going to get marketed very well quickly. So I think both reports have merit, but I think if we don't do something, we're going to end up talking about it for the rest of the summer. So I'm in favor of the majority report, and thank the committee again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Leader.
Excuse me. There are some of my friends on the dais tonight who have concerns about this program, which has already been delayed 1 year. And there are some of my friends on the dais tonight who had concerns about this program last year. And I don't doubt there will be some of my friends on the dais who will certainly have concerns about this program next year. The only way to objectively determine if these concerns are valid is to put this matter to the test by participating in a controlled 2-month trial period, during which time we can test the trolley in the real world of Elmhurst and find out if this program is worthwhile. The city will carefully monitor it, both quantitatively and qualitatively. If worthwhile, then keep it. Otherwise, fix it or drop it. If worthwhile, it will be another tool in the creation of a more sales tax-driven, vibrant downtown. The pursuit of perfection is the patron saint of delay. Make no mistake, to vote for the minority report is a vote to kill this project. For further delay amounts to abandonment. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Healy?
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize. There are two additional things I meant to add. First, in terms of the $35,000, and I apologize for not mentioning this, that money is coming out of the Tourism and Convention Fund. That money is earmarked towards promoting Elmhurst. It has to be spent towards promoting Elmhurst. The primary income source is the hotel tax. So want to make sure that the public knows, and in case the dais doesn't know, this isn't money we're taking out of, say, the general fund that could be used elsewhere for flood mitigation, for example. It has to be spent in promoting Elmhurst. So that $35,000 is coming out of there. Secondly, and this is very important, some people may ask, well, why not just push the start date back? Well, the way we work the timing, it's an 8-week trial. We wanted the last weekend of the trolley service to be the Rock the Block weekend, which is kind of city center's big. They did it for the first year last year. I thought it went pretty well. Weather got in the way a little bit. We wanted that to be the last weekend because that's kind of the last weekend of summer. And then we kind of worked backwards from there 8 weeks. And it just so happened that 8 weeks from that point is the bike race, which I think many of us have attended and think it's a great event. So we looked at those two events and said, what a great start and what a great finish, the bookends to the program. So that is why when we say we got to go tonight, and we want to move forward tonight so Maureen can get going, is because we want to start it on the bike race and we want to finish it on Rock the Block. So thank you.
Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Recognizing that a portion of our hotel motel tax is designated to encourage visitors, to encourage tourism and increase the number of visitors that come to Elmhurst, I do believe that the idea of a trolley as a benefit to our residents, businesses, and museums and other groups has great potential. I have no interest in killing the project. I think that we need to take a new look at how we promote it. And I do want to thank everybody who's worked on this. I know this has gone to committee and to the council, so I want to thank our aldermen and all the staff that have worked on it. But to move forward this summer and to widely promote the trolley starting immediately does not reflect what I think we need to be working on. The marketing of the trolley is expected to be funded by dollars allocated for communication. A series of media blasts about the trolley is not what I think we should be communicating right now, even more so after the recent flooding we experienced on Monday. Alderman Healy made the case for a pilot program. With the pilot program being a smaller scale test of a larger program, we need to create conditions that are comparable to a full-scale program so we can determine if we want to repeat this on a larger scale. If we do not adequately promote the trolley service during the pilot period, our evaluation will not be of the service itself, but rather a measure of the efficacy of announcing it with limited reach and an inadequate planning time. It doesn't even matter if this is a trial or the 10th year of a program. Trial or not, we are obligated to evaluate the worth of any program, including the return on investment. A launch date in 2016 will allow for broader promotion and more time to address details. With sufficient time and not additional dollars, we can leverage the resources available to us including those already funded with city dollars. Aside from being the wrong time as it relates to recent events, it is too late to schedule pilot programs starting in July. The city's quarterly newsletter, The Front Porch, is our #1 means of communication with residents, reiterated again in the 2014 Citizen Survey. The summer edition has already been printed and distributed. So has the Historical Museum summer calendar and the library's summer newsletter fine print. We pay $25,000 for membership with the DuPage Visitor and Tourism Bureau. That fee covers advertising space and publications. Their summer guide has also been published. The Summer Park District catalog has also gone out. There may be an argument for digital media promotion, and I do agree it's a great way to reach some immediately. But even with getting the word out online, we are too late for secondary promotion, such as best of summer compilations and editorial recommendations for summer activities. For example, I saw at the end of May, the Chicago Tribune had put together a list of summer festivals. Even if there is a way to inform a wide audience throughout the Chicagoland area by July, valuable opportunities for residents, businesses, museums, and other groups are missed without adequate time for planning. For example, I called library staff to run the idea of the trolley by them, and we talked about the summer reading program. I learned that there are 5,000 participants in the summer reading program. It made me think of a possible opportunity to include a trolley ticket in participants' folders. The staff person said she wondered if it was possible to have story time on the trolley. Coordinated library programming could amplify promotion of the trolley, but the deadline for the summer edition of fine print newsletter is in March. I also called the event planner at Wilder Mansion and learned that there are 4 to 6 weekend events in the summer, including class reunions. With adequate time, Wilder could advertise their facilities as well as the option to take the trolley around town. The list goes on for museums and businesses that may want to plan a single or multi-stop event utilizing the trolley. With no extra spending on our end, but with time, we can position the city for a greater return on this investment. If we are seeking to measure success in part by ridership and mentions in media, documented changes in visits or spending throughout town, we are not positioning this for success if we try to pull it off this year. To the point that we've got a large budget, and this is a small portion of it, I agree, but I think it doesn't matter if we're spending what we're spending. If allowing time for planning yields a greater return on investment, then I think we can spend the extra time on this, especially when there's no absolute need to do this now. To the point that this is a pilot and we just want to try it, I would think something to compare it to would be if you decide to take your family on vacation to Florida for the first time on an established budget, would you start making plans 1 week out or months in advance? Would you justify your trip 1 week out by saying you just want to try it, even though you know it's too late to secure reservations for the activities and restaurants you want to include? Saying you want to try it has nothing to do with the need for planning. Additionally, suppose you did bring your family on that vacation with only 1 week to plan, had an okay but not a fabulous time. When you reflect on your experience to evaluate whether or not you want to return to Florida, wouldn't you conclude what you already knew? To get the greatest return on your investment, you need time to plan. Saying we want to try it means just that, we want to try it, including completing the necessary steps to position it to be successful. Saying we want to try it does not justify launching it right now when we're not ready to do so. The next service we offer our residents should not be a trolley. We do not have time to pull it off well. Therefore, I would like to make the motion to substitute the minority report for the majority report.
Okay, we have a motion, a motion to substitute the minority report for the majority report. I need a second on that. Alderman Deuter, second. As I've said in the past, when issues like this are very similar with overlap, I'll allow leeway in terms of folks who want to chime in. But right now, we are officially discussing the motion to substitute the minority for the majority. Additional conversation. Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I continue to feel, as I did last summer, that this is a concept with a lot of potential. I won't duplicate the details of Alderman Plonsky's comments, but I do think there are 3 conditions for giving this pilot program, this concept, its best shot at success. And those 3, in my opinion, are that we have clearly communicated its intent and purpose. We've identified what that is, and we've clearly communicated it not just among ourselves, but to the public. The second would be that it's well-planned, and the third would be that we're bringing it at the right timing. I have concerns about all three of those pieces, but right now my overriding concern is with the timing. I think the program and the focus on the communication around it would be a detraction from where we need to be focused. This, it's an optional service. I don't think the timing is critical. There are other things we do that are part of the bread and butter of our business or have critical timing, and by no means should any of those activities or operations come to a halt. But I think this is something we do have a luxury of some time, and I think we can move it forward a year from now, assuming those other conditions have been met. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Toledo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the committee for their work. I support the idea of a city trolley. I think it's unique. I think it could help differentiate Elmhurst as a western suburb destination, not only for our residents, but also for tourists outside of our town. I don't normally, most of us don't normally mention what we do in our professional career, but I think it's extremely relevant to this point. A large majority of my professional career was spent in marketing and is currently spent in marketing. And it's not just about driving awareness. Marketing is also about getting and driving action. And I don't think that the current marketing plan that we have, as supported by the majority report, and the time that we have in place to put that in place, supports driving action. I do believe it drives awareness. I therefore support a robust and a well-thought-out plan that's not rushed. It allows for co-marketing programs with all Elmhurst destinations, including museums and other organizations, as Alderman Polomsky mentioned. This will position the pilot for the greatest chance of success. Specifically because it is positioned as a test or a pilot, we will all be asked to evaluate this in the future. And we can't adequately evaluate it if we don't put our best foot forward. I therefore support the minority report.
Okay. Any additional comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was able to attend one of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee meetings when this topic was on the agenda. I am glad to see some of those have been addressed to a certain degree. One of which is, how do we actually grade level of success? The other piece, I believe, was City Clerk Spencer was talking about the marketing piece during that same committee meeting. Both the majority and the minority report touch on both of those items. I, however, though, think we are putting the trolley before the horse in this case for many reasons. One of the reasons is because we're trying to, and my battery just died. We tried to, thank you, Alderman Wagner. We're trying to market something with very limited time frame. I would say about 10 years ago, I actually presented this same idea. I said it was a bus idea. I was told at that time it would cost $1 million, and now we're down to $35,000. What a great reduction in scale. I really believe that this is a good idea, obviously from my past presentation of the same idea. The problem is we're shoving it down way too quickly from the time frame that's needed to really launch this. I would hate to have this discussion again and say, well, we didn't have enough time. We didn't have enough time to market it. We didn't have enough time to do this. We didn't have enough time to have good levels of success when we actually judge this. And the other thing is, we have better areas to spend our money on, especially if you look at the route of this proposed trolley service. It's going down Addison. There's an Addison parking garage going up that street's going to be under construction for a good portion of the time that this is being presented. We just talked in the Public Works Committee meeting about when the paver bricks will be going on Addison Street. But we're proposing on spending $35,000 and level the success of a program when the street, one of the main streets that it's going to go down, is going to be torn up for a good portion of the summer. I don't understand why we need this today. I actually don't understand on how it, or who brought this to the table. I do know when it was discussed before, it was supposed to be under $20,000, and therefore it was going to be moved forward with the city manager's approval. We're up to $35,000. from a budgeting perspective, I even don't know where the dollars are coming from, because the same dollar amount has been proposed the last couple of years for these two line items that's mentioned in the reports. So either we're not doing something that those two line items have been used for, or we're gonna go over budget in the subsequent budget year. I have a concern in regards to the phrasing of the recommendation of the minority report, putting a stamp of saying no earlier than a certain date, but I definitely don't agree with the majority report, so I support the minority report.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Levin.
Well, I was going to support the project, but I think if Alderman Bram's right, it'll cost in 10 years, it'll be $250 to do the whole thing, so.
Let's wait.
One of the questions I wanted to ask, and maybe it's directed more to the minority, actually maybe more to the majority report, is that the timing under the majority report is to start the last week of July. And I'm wondering if that is because we're ready to go, or if that's really the ideal time, because for one of those Elmhurst residents who does not go on vacation at that time of the summer, it gets a little dead around here in August, and it seems like that's sort of the main month. So is that the ideal month of the year to do it, as opposed to starting it when school gets out and people are still hanging around going to summer school, et cetera?
Alderman Healy, I know it was discussed in the meetings. You want to address that?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. It was discussed, and it was a combination of things. Really, the primary reason for these dates were those two events, mainly the Rock the Block. Wouldn't it be nice to have it end there, draw more people downtown, make it easier for people to get downtown? Then we walked it back for the bike race. The bike race being an event that's growing in popularity. There will be a lot of people in that general area that will see the trolley in action, ask the question. Hopefully we'll have seen some advance notice of it so they know they can jump on the trolley to go to the bike race. But then there was also conversation, and to be upfront, we went into this thinking that the July-August timeframe was the time, mainly because that's what was discussed last year. Summertime, kids are out of school. The thought is that the preteens, the teens will use this service during the day or potentially at night, so they're around. We wanted to capture them. It is a slower time for the restaurants and bars, so could this program be something to help spur people to stay in Elmhurst instead of getting in their cars and going somewhere, a fun Friday night out, fun Saturday night out? So that was kind of the thought of why July, August. We did talk about, hey, but this is a heavy vacation period, but, in the end, we decided that with the two events, with kids being accessible, hoping they use it, and then just kind of the summertime, let's get out and go see downtown Elmhurst. That's what drove the timing aspect.
Alderman Levin?
I do think that the events are a good, the bicycle race, et cetera, but I think from my perspective, starting it at a time when people are going to be here, you only get one shot at a test, and I'm not so concerned about the empirical measurement of this program. You could spend more evaluating a $35,000 program than you spend on it, but it seems like if you started in June and maybe ended with the bicycle event, you'd have a better test period, and I think that's a factor we need to take into account. Delay is preferable to error, and Alderman Leader, that's Thomas Jefferson if we're going to use quotes. But so I still want to hear more comment, but I do think the timing, not so much of when it gets started, but what time of year you start it.
Alderman Dunn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular project was raised last July, and at that time I had a lot of reservations about it. There was a feeling that it was hastily thrown together, even though there was a lot of work done by city staff on it. there was just not a lot of information, a lot of background when it was proposed at that time, and being in July, we sort of were missing a little bit of a window. And this time around, I do have some reservations also. Again, we're getting started a little late. I, like Alderman Levin, am a little concerned about the 8-week time frame being late July to mid-September. And I understand how it's bookended between those two great events that we have in town. But there are some concerns about the July frame and people taking vacations and not being around. The cost of the event being, it's about $1,000 a day to run it. You have 8 weeks and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That particular cost appears reasonable to me. I would like to see maybe a further examination of the route. I understand that the intent is to move between retail and commercial areas. However, I would like to pull some residents in that potentially could hop on the trolley as opposed to getting in their car to go in town, particularly up in the north side of town. I think it might be a good idea to have a stop maybe in Barron's Park, which is right in the center of the second ward, and you'd have about 5,000 people that could walk there in 5 to 10 minutes and then enjoy the trolley and then get home that way. The fact that it's a 1-hour loop seems a little long to me. If you're waiting for an hour, you just miss it, that might be a problem. I think it would take less time to get around that loop. And I like the fact that there is an overlap with one of the Pace bus stops to provide access that way. And as Alderman Polumsky said, we're a little bit late to hit some of the promotional opportunities. However, I do think this is a reasonable start to examine this particular service and really expose Elmhurst and perhaps expose our businesses and hopefully to build on in the future or not if we determine that this is not an effective program. So I will not be supporting the minority report. I will support the majority report for this project this year. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone who's not had an opportunity to speak? Alderman Healy.
Just a couple points of clarification. In terms of the route, we actually did discuss a varied route and potentially to include stops further north or further south. And it always came back to the two main points, which were we wanted to keep the shuttle contained to within the 3 business districts, Spring Road, York and Villette, and then downtown. And we wanted to keep it to no more than an hour loop. If we went further north or further south, that loop would have been more than an hour, and Chief Bassador himself drove it on a couple of occasions just to make sure that we felt we could keep it to an hour, because I agree with Alderman Dunn. If people are on longer than an hour, they're not going to wait, or they're not going to see it as a convenience. In terms of marketing, because I understand and respect that is the big concern, I believe, and perhaps Alderman Toludo would back this up, the greatest marketing is word of mouth. It always has been, always will be. That's what's going to drive this. If you know, when the word gets out and the flyers get out and the posters go up and the signs go up, people say, what is that? And somebody says, oh, I rode that and it was great. I parked my car here and drove. You know, that's what's going to make this program a success. Alderman Polumsky's examples of Story Time and Wilder, great examples. I mean, I wish we could have gotten to them a couple months ago, but we're not going to get there. But we can incorporate those, and then somebody else will come up with 2 more that we couldn't get to. I'm willing to take that chance, and I still think the program would be a success. Finally, on the front porch, the summer front porch did go out in May. The autumn front porch will go out in late July. So the autumn front porch will go out if the trolley passes right at the time where this program kicks off. So I agree, and we know that the front porch is a great communication piece. It will be in there in July if the program passes. Thank you.
Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. This trolley thing it's a really difficult thing for me. I hear what Alderman Levin is saying about people being on vacation, but and I don't know, there's probably no numbers that support one way or the other. What it really boils down to me is that this is an opportunity to learn something that we can take information that we learned this year and apply it to make it even bigger and better next year. I think that more people look at their utility bills and things like that, so I think if we get the message in there, there's going to be more people read their utility bills than they do the front porch. I can guarantee you that. I think we still have some excellent marketing opportunities. I think it shows the business community in Elmhurst that we're committed in some small way in helping to get folks to their establishments. I think we're going to see a tremendous outreach by business establishments. I get emails from KFI Umano, HB Jones, all these places. I'm sure they're going to be touting it. So this is a close one for me, but I think we have more to learn by trying this year, even though it's less than ideal, and I will support the majority report.
Any other comments? Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question for members of the committee. One of the aldermen made a comment about, an hour loop being, as long as you'd want to wait for a trolley to come around, and more frequent, I think, would be better. We're stretching this pilot program over a 3-day period. Was there consideration given to going all day on Saturday, having more trolleys running, and just get a 1-day shot at it?
Alderman Healy, wish to address?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Bram?
Thank you. It seems like a lot of the things we do are termed, I don't know, maybe it's the latest catchphrase, is the pilot program. I think in some instances a pilot program is appropriate here. But I think in this case, we're rushing and using the term pilot program to work out the bugs, work out the kinks, when it's not appropriate. It's not a need. We have other issues that we need to contend with, even if we're not taking this out of our capital improvement fund or our general fund. There's other things that we need to be focusing on as a city council and as a city instead of a trolley service at this point in time. I think some of the statements I've already made, Addison being ripped up for most of the summer, I'm not sure on why we're wanting to do a trolley program when one of the main arteries through downtown is being torn up. I don't know on how we could judge it appropriately once this pilot program is completed, if that is going to be a hindering factor throughout most, if not all, of the summer. The other thing, it's been mentioned that the chief has, done the loop himself. Unless he took a fire engine to actually prototype a trolley service, a car going through our downtown is probably a bit quicker. A car going through our downtown, not picking up at each of these steps, is probably a bit quicker. So, from my estimation, and maybe this was discussed in committee and they can clarify for me, but it's not going to be an hour loop. And that's not encountering the construction on Addison. That's not encountering picking up people. That's not encountering that it's a big trolley versus a car, or maybe an SUV at best. I do also agree with Alderman Dunn's statements, and Alderman Healy already commented to it or responded to it, but I want to emphasize my concerns as well. The pilot program is the center and the south side of town. We have Mariano's, we have LA Fitness going up, we have other things on the north side, Barron's Park, that, if a pilot program is going to be looked at, it should encompass, a larger route than actually being proposed in this pilot program. I really think that all of us should support the minority report. There's no reason that we need to put this at the forefront this summer, other than catching the programs that were already mentioned by Alderman Healy that are going to happen next year anyway. And that way Edison will be clear of any construction, will be able to do a better job marketing, word of mouth will be 10 times better. All those things will be in place so we can move forward with it in a better time frame with better results compared to what it would be today.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Healy.
Sorry, one last point of clarification. Alderman Brand mentioned Chief Bassador and him driving the route. Let me clarify, because we did talk about it in committee. Yeah, I'm assuming Chief drove fire SUV, I'm guessing, that followed all the speed limits, that would go just as fast as a trolley, and stayed at each stop 5 minutes. So Chief did his best to simulate what the route would look like. He didn't just drive the loop to drive the loop. He pretended he was a trolley. So I'm very confident that the loop, as identified, will be no more than an hour.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree there are more important things to talk about. Flooding is one of them, but 45 minutes into us, I'd like to finish the subject and have a vote up or down, one way or the other. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Alderman Healy basically said that, but neither is waiting. I think this is another case where a little bit of the 80-20, we're gonna get a lot of information this year, and ultimately I think we'll probably look at this for 2 years because we're gonna learn some things and we may even end up wanting to do it next year. Related to this construction at Addison, we're gonna be under construction somewhere next year. And then we're gonna say, well, we don't wanna do it next year because it's Spring Road, and then we don't wanna do it the year after because it's Bullitt and York. And you know, I've been down enough times on Addison Street that you can get down it at a reasonable speed without this causing the program to fall apart. You know, if I look at the demographics of who's gonna use this, it's gonna be a bunch of kids who are gonna ride around, because that's what we would have done as all kids, check out different parts of town. We're gonna have some visitors that'll get on there, but the most of the people are gonna be residents who we want to have money, their money spent in Elmhurst, not in Oak Brook, not in Rosemont, not in LaGrange, but we want them to spend their money in the summer in Elmhurst, and that's what it's here for. In terms of the communication, we put it out in the utility bills, everybody's gonna get it within the next 2 months, you know, but I think the greatest advertising is gonna come from the trolley itself. You know, you look at Nordstrom in Oak Brook, for the first, 20, 30 years of its existence, it never had to advertise. Because to Chris's point, it was the word of mouth, it was great service, it was a great experience. I think by having this trolley, people seeing it drive around with the posters up is the best advertising we're gonna have. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's well worth taking the effort at this point. We'll learn a tremendous amount and we'll adapt going forward. So I'm in support of the majority report and want to see it move forward. Thank you.
Okay, any other final comments? Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question maybe for Assistant City Manager Kopp. Has Pace changed its route on Addison? Pace bus service? No. They have not, okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on the motion before us, which is to substitute the minority report for the majority report. Clerk Spencer.
Palumski.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader.
No.
Dunn.
No.
Graham.
Aye.
York.
No.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
No.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
No.
Onquist.
No.
Wagner.
No.
Mulliner.
Oh.
Looks like 5 ayes and 9 nays.
5 ayes, 9 nays, motion to substitute fails onto the underlying motion, which is the approval of the majority report. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll.
Okay.
I'm concerned about her voice.
Got a little frog in
Get us
my
some
throat.
water?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Whatever-
some.
whatever you do.
Okay, Healy.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Palumski.
No.
York.
Yes.
Toledo.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
No.
Okay. Sabatino.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone? Okay, 11 ayes and 3 nays.
11 ayes, 3 nays. Majority report is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. On to reports and recommendations at 10 to 10 in the evening. Mayor Morley, a couple of things real quick. One is, I think it went out in a press release, but I'll just reiterate that any refuse or garbage that you have relating to any flooding issues, you can put it out this week, last week, and you can also put it out this week at no additional charge. And then the only other comment I will make in general, and I didn't make it in my update, was a comment in general with regards to social media. City of Elmhurst uses social media. I think it's a great free tool, a way to get the message out. But one of the things I did mention earlier was miscommunication, and that's a challenge I think we all face. You know, for example, I saw some stuff posted online about, is the quarry open and how does that work? And as much as I think social media is good about getting a conversation going, you've got, what we got here? We've got 17 elected officials. And I think the best way to get the most accurate information, if you do have a question, you're more than welcome to post it online. But I would encourage you to get to know your alderman, more than likely, especially if it relates to something that's flood-related. We've been working on it every week for, well, the last 6 years, I guess. That the elected officials sitting around this dais, and certainly the staff members at City Hall, can give you an accurate answer and get you the answer as quick as possible. So those are my 2 points. And on to Assistant City Manager Kopp. Any announcements? No reports. Okay, any other reports from the dais? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 10, ordinance. Clerk Spencer, I would ask that you read the ordinance.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of $16 million general obligation bonds, Series 2015, for the purpose of financing various capital improvements in the city, including without limitation, the Addison Street Deck Project, stormwater projects, and wastewater treatment plant upgrades, and paying the expenses incident thereto, providing the levy and collection of direct annual tax sufficient for the payment of the principal of and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the sale of said bonds to the winning bidder.
Okay, to put this ordinance before council, I will ask for a motion to approve. Motion to approve ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance before us tonight provides for the issuance of general obligation bonds per our committee's report, which is attached to board docs. We did this some weeks ago in anticipation of the sale date of last Monday. The bonds were sold a week ago, and due to the cancellation of the meeting last week, we were not able to approve this ordinance. Finance Director Gaston worked with Spear Financial, who's our financing partner on bond issues, to reach out to the winning bidder and due primarily to good luck relative to interest rate movements over the past 7 days, we're not going to see any adjustment required in interest upon approval of this ordinance. If you'd like, I would like to make a motion to allow Mark Geratina, he's the Assistant Vice President of Spear Financial, to address the council and those here tonight on the results of the bidding and the bond market in general. He would also be able to entertain any questions that anyone might have, so I'd like to make a motion.
What was his name?
Mark Geratina.
Okay, we have a motion to allow someone to address the council other than what's allowed by our code. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Toludo. I think we can do this by voice vote. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion so approved. So floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. I'll try and make this quick for the time. Bids were taken this past Monday, as Alderman York just said, for the city's general obligation bonds to finance certain capital improvements. We received 8 bids, and the winning bidder was J.P. Morgan with a rate of 3.3%. Due to the cancellation of the city council meeting last week, we agreed to negotiate the bond sale with the same underwriter, J.P. Morgan. The bond market the past week cooperated and remained unchanged, so therefore the rate stayed the same as the past week on the 15th. The overall rate was lower than we had planned, and we recommend that this bid be accepted by the city council. The city also affirmed their AAA rating with Standard & Poor's, which helped with the overall interest cost of the bond issue. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions? Sounds like we stood still for a week on the interest rate, so it was the same as if we had the opportunity last week to approve this. Okay, seeing no questions, I'll thank you for your time. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thanks for your presentation, Mark. I'm glad that it was brief and we didn't have any questions. As I do for each bond issue, I would call to all of your attention to the Standard & Poor's bond rating summary located on beginning on page 8 of the bond issue award letter that's on our board docs tonight. I'd urge you to take the 5 to 10 minutes it takes to read this document, as it provides a lot of information that results, as Mark mentioned, in the AAA credit rating and the affirmation of that credit rating that the city enjoys and will be able to leverage as we further delve into stormwater projects and other capital projects that are commonplace in municipal finance. It is also worth noting that the section at the top of page 11 on debt and contingent liabilities. The city is in good shape on total debt outstanding, given that 3/4 of its current debt is due to be retired within 10 years. This is a big number. Are we taking more debt on? There's no doubt about it, but we're also retiring our debt. We're not living day to day on it. The looming issue in my mind is with pension obligations, and while we are currently very well funded in the 70% range for our 3 pension funds, unless something changes structurally, this will be a headwind for the city and the taxpayers for the foreseeable future. I hated to end this little presentation on a downer, especially in light of the great news overall, but reality is just that, and it is something that we're going to have to watch carefully, as we really don't have any direct control as a governing unit on benefits, et cetera. The only throttle we have is with the number of employees that we hire and maintain. So I ask for your support of the bond ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to please call a roll.
York.
Yes, Alderman Wagner, sorry.
Stay looking to your left a little longer there, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question. Do we have any debt, maybe this is for you, Alderman York, that is at risk or affected by this crisis in Greece?
No.
Okay, make it sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I support it.
Any other questions? Clerk Spencer.
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Goiter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. On to other business. Any other business?
No, another ordinance.
There's another
Jesus.
ordinance.
Sorry.
What about,
040-215.
I apologize.
yeah, didn't we miss something?
I just looked, I just fatigued sitting, and I just looked at it and set it down. I apologize. On to ordinance 0-40-2015. Clerk Spencer.
An
please read the
ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of the redevelopment agreement by and between Wilder Crossings, it's Wilder Crossing, excuse me, LLC, and the city of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Okay, well read by Clerk Spencer. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance as read. Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an ordinance or redevelopment agreement that we reviewed in committee some time ago. And normally the case is that the committee reports and the redevelopment agreements are actually much closer together, so we tend to remember things a little bit better, but just to set the table, this is for a proposed redevelopment on Addison for some townhomes and some commercial space, mixed-use project. And the report was approved by the City Council back in January or February, I believe. And the redevelopment agreement that you see before you tonight is basically the work of the attorneys on both sides getting together and getting the essence of the committee report put into a redevelopment agreement to be assured that both parties are in a place that we agreed to per our report. And in a nutshell, it's $236,000 of maximum city incentive, TIF incentive for the developer to possibly attain a 9.9% return on investment. There's the option that the city will contribute nothing to this project. There's the option that it'll contribute between nothing and up to the $236,000. Everything that the committee wanted in this redevelopment agreement is there. There's going to be a true-up period where we look at the revenues to the date that the project becomes 80% sold. At that point in time, we'll use a per square footage price, which should be a pretty good indication of what the market is by that point in time, where we'll extrapolate the further revenue, and then we'll look at all the project costs in this thing and do the calculation on a return on investment, and there will either be a payout or there won't. I put this on this part of the agenda because we've been away from it for a while, so I wanted to have the opportunity to present it and see if there are any questions. I know that there are some people who were not for the report. I understand that. This reflects the report into a legal agreement. Thank you.
Okay, good summary. Any comments? Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. My colleagues, I'm sure will remember that at the time this report came out, I was a member of the Finance Committee. I did support a minority report that suggested that the rate of return that we get the developer up to would be something less than the 9.9% that was requested. I think the minority report suggested that we would support the project up to a 9% rate of return. So I'm not going to support this ordinance tonight, not because the RDA isn't a really strong document, because I think it is, but just because I would have liked to seen a little bit more of a shared sacrifice to get up to the 9.9% that the developer was seeking. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this either. I agree with Alderman Deuter's comments. I think it could have been shared a little bit more between city and developer in this case, so I do not support the ordinance, but I do think the RDA is a strong document as well, like Alderman Deuter said.
Alderman Plumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the committee and staff for the work on this. I think it's a fine project and that some assistance is warranted. I was stuck out of town when we discussed the TIF request in February, but had I been here, I would have supported the minority report. While on DP&Z, I supported the request to build up to 65 feet with the allowance translating to a realized revenue for the developer and being able to build more units. I know there's more that goes into it. I do not support the level of financing in this RDA, so I do not support the RDA.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Dunn?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As Alderman York mentioned, the TIF incentive is a max of $236,000. There would be two payments if that should occur, one at demolition and the other upon the occupancy permit being issued. The expected return to this taxing bodies is $1.7 million on this particular project, and that is just till the end of the TIF 1. When that does expire, of course, we would continue to accrue benefits from the property well after that. So it's a pretty solid project. The original ask for the TIF was at around $1.1 million, but looking at the city taking on some utility burying and adjusting some other line items, it came down to $236,000, which it is a good investment for the city, considering the return we will get on this project. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Palumski.
No.
Where am I? Toledo.
Aye.
Ely.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Joyder.
No.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
11 ayes and 3 nays.
11 ayes, 3 nays, ordinance passes. Motion carries, ordinance passes. Now on to other business, agenda item 11. Any other business? Alderman York.
Make this quick, but I got an email from the police department today, and excited that our roll calls have started again. This Thursday at 6 p.m. at the corner of Fair and Huntington, which is in the 4th Ward, right by Emerson School. It's a great opportunity for residents to come out and meet and greet the officers that work their neighborhoods and watch for bad things, make sure bad things don't happen, and they catch the guys who make bad things happen. So I think it's a great program. The turnout to the ones I went to last year was outstanding, and I'd encourage everybody to come out there if they can, and maybe keep us posted on a bi-weekly basis of where these things are going to be happening. So
I think you meant Edison.
Edison. Did I say Emerson?
You said Emerson.
Okay, I'm sorry. Edison School. I'm sorry.
As an alumnus of Edison, it's important to clarify that. Okay, any other comments? Alderman Deuter.
Alderman York's comment just reminded me that in the First Ward, we have a neighborhood roll call scheduled for tomorrow night, Tuesday, June 23rd, from 6 to 6:15 at the corner of Utley and Fairview.
Alderman Wagner.
Is the roll call schedule posted?
Yeah. When's it come out? When's it normally come out?
Is it on the website?
It's not planned too far ahead, because I know that,
Ask maybe the chief knows.
it's chief part of that. I can't even remember if he's, everyone give me a head nod to let the chief talk to us. Okay, chief, run us down the scheduling and how you work the roll calls, please.
We try not to make it too far out in advance. We take requests. We usually post them on Monday or Tuesday, Thursday. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, we'll be more than happy to try to accommodate those. We do post it on the police department's Facebook page, and we notify the alder.
With flyers too.
Affected there.
Don't you do flyers too? So you do flyers too in the
And
neighborhood?
flyers, yes, we fly the neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other business? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman York. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.